Welcome back to Telltale Books. I would like to discuss the very first published story of Theodore Sturgeon, who would become one of the most respected science fiction writers and one of the most literate science fiction writers of all the writers that got their start before 1950. For a long time, I thought his very first story was Ether Breather, published in Astounding in 1939. But no, that's his first science fiction publication. Before that, he did publish a few stories, primarily in McClure Newspaper Syndicate. And his very first story was published in that magazine and for July 16th of 1938, or in that newspaper, in syndication probably in a lot of newspapers. July 16th, 1938, the story is called Heavy Insurance. It's kind of a mystery story. You have a clerk working in an office, handling packages that are being shipped. In his position, he is never supposed to open a package, but he sees one package that's insured for like $30,000 and says something about jewelry. He can't resist the urge to open it, so he does. And that leads to revealing an attempt to swindle the packaging office. I really can't say anything more about it than that. If I do, I'll just blow the story. If you have an interest in reading it, it'll ruin it for you. Very short story. It's like 3 pages long. Has this interesting twist ending. Not much more than that. It's got a nice character. It's fairly well written, but it's pretty darn simple, which is kind of true of most of the first stories that I've been running into in doing these series, going back to the very first stories that authors published. I'm finding that their first ones were usually very short, very simple. And that's kind of why I'm doing this, is that I want to see how they progress from there. They start off with something that's really not that great, and then we know that most of these authors end up winning Hugo and Nebula Awards. And I want to see how that happens. I want to see how that progresses. So far I don't think I've gone far enough with any of the authors to see, maybe Edgar Allan Poe, but the rest of them, I haven't gone far enough and read enough in these projects to see that great a progression from the earliest stories. But it still has been interesting, especially with Philip K. Dick. And I'm really enjoying this. I hope you are too. If you want to find Heavy Insurance, I believe the only place you're going to find it, aside from that original newspaper publication, is The Ultimate Egoist. I think you might be able to get an ebook of this, but otherwise this has been out of print since like 1998. I got the entire series of complete stories of Theodore Sturgeon. You can still find them used, but you're going to pay a hefty price. The original price I paid for all these was, well, this one was $25, which is pretty reasonable. Now you're probably going to pay at least $100 for that book. And I think there are 13 volumes in the series, so get out your cash. Anyway, it's a great book, though. If you're a Theodore Sturgeon fan, it's a must-read. It's got everything of his short fiction. And so I hope you'll come back. That was number 1 in the Theodore Sturgeon series. Number 2 will be a story called Golden Day. And I hope you'll come back when I do that one, and come back for all the other videos that I do. And I'll see you then.